Complaint.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Please confirm if you can hear me by waving, if you can hear me. Okay, I think I have a few confirmations. Okay, good afternoon. You're welcome to this very important gathering, the second day of this stakeholders meetup, virtual meetup via the Zoom platform to discuss the roles of the government, NGOs and CSOs in the fight against gender-based violence in Kebbi State. My name is Awal Hassanwara, the managing partner Startup Kebbi. We're this platform that provides this enabling environment for these CSOs to actually deliberate on these social biases. We've waited 10 to 15 minutes for our participants to join, and we are commencing with the available CSOs we have on ground. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information and Culture, Alhaji Garba Hamis Uzuru. You're welcome. We also have the representative, the program manager from Meetup Africa, Medipin Olusegun. You're welcome. And all those participants that join us, you're also welcome. We also have Ambassador Nafisa Abubakar Zaki. You're also welcome. So without wasting much of your time, I will hand you over to our able facilitator for this program, Jennifer Pius, for the commencement of this program. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, you're welcome to today's discussion on the role of governments, NGOs, and CSOs in the fight against gender-based violence, especially in Kebbi State. And just as we did yesterday, we spoke with some government officials from Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. Today won't be different. We will be speaking with NGOs, CSOs, and also some members from government organizations. And we are still talking about the role of government, NGOs, CSOs in the fight against gender-based violence. My name is Jennifer Pius, and I'll be the facilitator for today's discussion. So we'll begin the discussion right away. Let's begin with opening remarks from
Malam Nasiru Idris, State Coordinator, Rapper, Team Leader, Kebbi State. He'll be giving us opening remarks. Okay, I'll take that again. He's the State Coordinator, Rapper, Team Leader, Kebbi State.
State Coordinator, Rapper, Team Leader.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'll take that again. He's the State Coordinator of CSOs. Can you hear me?
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. You are all welcome once again for the second session of this very program. Yesterday it has been a very wonderful one. Actually, the permanent secretaries have commented and made mention of all the effort they are making toward reducing the gender-based violence in Kebbi State. And we are trying to figure out the problems and solutions as CSOs. How are we going to tackle these very problems? Before I go on, I wish to welcome the Permanent Secretary, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, in person of Alhaji Garba Hamisu, here with us. As you know, that gender-based violence need awareness, and awareness, you have to need somebody from information. And information will going to help us a lot in trying to mobilize and create more awareness to the people. And that is why he's here, and he's going to give us his own output and contribution he's going to make toward the achievement of this very gender-based violence. Before I go on, yesterday, as I mentioned, it is wonderful that the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, has made a very good comments. And actually, we are very happy with all the stakeholders that spoke yesterday. And as CSOs, one of the most important things for us to do now is to keep on monitoring, making serious observation on all what the permanent secretaries have made mention of and the effort they are making. Let us ensure that what the effort they have put into action in fighting against gender-based violence is still working. One of the most important things and most difficult thing we are facing now is implementation. When things are done, when policies are made, the implementation of that policies become a very difficult thing. We made mention of good policies, but who are to monitor that very policies to see that really it works? Because so long we have not keep on monitoring the policies that were made by the government. The CSOs, one of the most important thing, one of the cardinal objectives of a CSO is to monitor, keep surveillance on policies that government has already made so that to ensure they are working. So let us, after all this program, we are going down to schools, we are going down to ministries and to see to ourselves, is that what all the permanent secretaries and others, what they said, is it working? If it is not working, there is anything faulty, we are going to report back to the ministry concerned, and I believe they are going to do something because they are willing to work with us. Before I keep on talking, because time is going, I just want to draw our attention a bit that gender-based violence is a violence that happens in so many places, and almost I can say it's everyday business now. Because in Nigeria, no single day you will not see a gender-based violence happening in one place or the other. It has become an order of the day. And this very violence, I can say it has eaten into the fiber of our society, norms and value. It has destroyed family units. And the most painful thing is that this very gender-based violence happens within the family cycle. Gender-based violence now, it has become that in a situation you can never trust anybody now. No father, mother, or sister, brother, all these kinds of things, cousins, uncle. No, you will never trust anybody. So you have to take care of your children. Yes, because so many things happen. We have so many things, what happens about this very gender violence. Let me just remind you that gender-based violence, actually, it is of different form. We have sexual violence, where briefly I can say this includes rape, defilement, incest, sexual assault, sexual harassment, marital rape, starvation of sex. This is what we call sexual violence. Physical violence, bodily, this includes bodily hurt, which include injury, battery, beating, indecent assault, threat to life, grievous hurt, attempt murder, trafficking, kidnapping, and adoption. And we have also domestic violence, which consists of psychological abuse, consisting of verbal assault, provocation, tormenting, mocking, lack of appreciation, ill treatment or maltreatment, abandonment, neglect, starvation, separation from children, denial of access to children, denial of custody, denial of pregnancy, denial of education, rejection based on illness, especially by husband due to HIV status, forceful ejection from matrimonial homes, and non-payment of alimony. All this consists of domestic violence, which I can mention is more rampant in our society nowadays. And we have to address this very issue because the prevalence of the gender-based violence is increasing, not reducing. Then we have harmful traditional practices, which is disinheritance, blocking access to property, widowhood rights, forceful ejection of widow from matrimonial homes. We have economic violence. Yes, please apologize. So we apologize for the just breakage of the service. This is due to network problems. So we are sorry about that. Lastly, I just want to make mention of the other violations, that is discrimination against people living with HIV and STDs, stigmatization in the working place, and other forms of violence. We just have to try to identify all these forms of violence and to identify how are we going to solve them one by one. And this is briefly about what CSOs are going to do. So before I take much of your time, please let us proceed and hear from other people too. Thank you very much. I still remain Malan Nasir Idris. Thank you.
For that wonderful opening remarks. Once again, I would like to apologize for the break. We had the permanent secretary, Ministry of Information and Culture, with us, and he couldn't make it for yesterday's discussion. So we'll begin with the permanent secretary, Ministry of Information and Culture today. The permanent secretary, sir.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sir, please, a brief introduction of yourself to the General House.
If you can hear me, my name is Eva. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
I'm in the background.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
My name is Garba. I'm the permanent secretary of the I have had the
Oh,
question that president. My take on this being a cultural thing, most settings. There is a need for a lot of advocacy and sensitization to be able to get to protest that is violence. Because a lot of people believe that it's a right to beat wives, for example. Can you hear me?
yes,
Hello.
but your network is not very clear.
So there is nothing anybody can do about that. It's the situation of the network. Uh, Actually, like I said there is need for us to embark on a lot of advocacy and sensitization to be able to meet people who practice gender-based violence. How do we do that? We start with communities that are at risk, high-risk communities, people who practice gender violence. We also need to target religious leaders because a lot of these religious leaders. We need to target community leaders and then youth. As for the legislation, I think it's a very good step. We need to legislate and ensure that laws are put in place and implemented to serve as deterrent for others.
Excuse me, the permanent secretary, sir. Please, can you take out your earpiece? Perhaps we would hear clearly.
Earpiece. You
From the
hear?
phone. Disconnect it from the phone.
Can you now? Hmm?
Can you
Can
take
you
out
hear
the
me?
earpiece from the phone? Disconnect it from the phone.
Already disconnected it from the phone.
Okay, go on, sir.
I said we need to do a lot of advocacy and sensitization. And I have suggested some of the groups that we need to target, like religious leaders, community leaders, youth groups, and women association. This is to make people understand that it is not good to engage in gender-based violence. And if laws are put in place to serve as deterrent for those who may want to practice, even after the criminalization, and offenders are prosecuted, I think it will begin to reduce.
Okay, sir. I would like to ask one more question, and thereafter we'll move on to a representative from Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN. So, sir, in what way will you use your ministry to support the fight against gender-based violence?
Well, being an intermediary between the people and the government, the ministry is basically an information dissemination outfit. Uh, we hear from people and feedback of government policies and actions from the people. We tell people what government has done, and we hear their feedback as to what they feel about those policies and programs. We hear and then write in newspapers and magazines. So I think our role basically will be to do a lot of sensitization on radio, television, and in our local newspapers. That we can do conveniently because it is our own job to do that.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your contributions. Before we continue with the conversation, I would like to recognize the presence of Wazirin Gwandu. Can you please wave?
Okay, please.
Welcome, sir. I also want to recognize the presence of Malam Umaru Isa, Secretary of Council of Ulama. Welcome, sir. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the representative from Christian Association of Nigeria. Like we had mentioned earlier, it's in the place of each and every organization, parastatal, to work together in the fight against gender-based violence. So can we have an indication from the representative of Christian Association of Nigeria, Kebbi State chapter? Okay, let's move on to that break. I had a few texts. Shegun from Youth Hub Africa. That's the program director, Youth Hub Africa. Mr. Shegun, sir.
Muhammad.
It's good to have you again. Welcome. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Now let's get on to some other aspects which we didn't really talk about yesterday. And with regards to Youth Hub Africa, especially in Kebbi State, we would like to know specifically, okay, have you so far had any relationships with traditional institutions as well as religious institutions, especially with regards to gender-based violence?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. No, we have not had any relationship with religious institution and traditional institution because Youth of Africa is not a, a grassroots organization. So we work with all other organizations at the grassroots level to be able to do that, to be able to reach out to traditional institution and the religious institution. Thank you.
For the organizations you've worked with, what has been their response towards these activities? Have they been receptive, and how accommodating have they been, especially with regards to gender-based violence? Because there are some bodies which do not really welcome the fight, discussions concerning gender-based violence. How have they been responding?
Yeah, so from us, from our knowledge, all the organizations we've had to work with when it comes to LGBT across Nigeria, not only in Kebbi State alone, have always been very accommodating and welcoming. Because of course we are in the advocacy space, and we are also wise enough to know that your message,
Muhammad.
you are a the fact that you don't believe that we should end gender-based violence against children does not mean that you are not our person. It only means that you have your reasons for seeing differently. And your reasons are all valid reasons based on your own experience and your own limitations. So we have a very open view where we are talking to our partners, where we are talking to traditional institutions and religious institutions about gender-based violence, about the child right, for instance, about education, about empowerment, about job creations, and all these things. And so because of the view that we have espoused over time, because we always believe we should not do any harm just because we wanted to win in an advocacy. It's going to be a win-win thing. There should be a balance point. So because of that, every stakeholder that we have spoken to, they are always very warm. So my encouragement to every civil society organization listening to us this afternoon, and every individual also, is that if you adopt that style and knows that there's no enemy, we need to win together, and it will change the way you go about your advocacy when it comes to gender-based violence, when it comes to women empowerment, when it comes to girls' education, and even protecting men. You have to also know that we want to win as many people towards us, and so you need to adopt an open mind and open attitude, and everybody will be welcoming you wherever you go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. One more question. Now, in what ways do you think youth can help the fight against gender-based violence?
So thank you. Let me start by saying this. There was a time I was very young, and everywhere I had to go, my father or my mother will have to carry me. If they don't carry me, I wouldn't be able to go to those places. Even after I became a man, I graduated from the university, my parents still had to carry me, though they didn't carry me with hand. They have to carry me with money. They have to carry me with advice. They have to carry me with prayer. So they carried me so that I would be useful to myself, useful to my community. Now, this is a time for we young people to also carry our parents and carry our society, carry our community. In fact, if it's possible, we owe the responsibility of also supporting the government as much as we can, right? So young people, our role now is the role of championing development in our community. If you are a young person under 40 and you cannot stand up and say, this is how I'm developing my community, or this is how I'm developing my family, or this is how I'm developing my state, then that young person should be called here, and we'll give him 2 strokes of cane, because it is in helping the community that even you yourself, you will get support and you will get help. Some of those politicians that we are looking up to now, that we call their name here and there, all of them also have contributed to their community one way or the other. And that is why, despite the fact that they might even be evil, nobody is seeing that evil, because we always talk about the small good work that they've done. So young people should go into the community and sensitize everybody about gender-based violence. Let's talk about rape. Let's go and encourage women to speak up. When a girl is raped, you should speak up. When a boy is raped, you know, people rape boys too. When a boy or a man is raped, we should also speak up, right? We should also make sure that we encourage people to report. We form community group as young boys. Let's form community group and take cases up, take it to the police, follow up the case with the police until the case is concluded logically. Let's form community policing for our community as young men. Let's police our community, and save our elders the stress. So these are some of the ways that young people can champion the fight to end gender-based violence in our community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shegun, for your contribution so far, including yesterday's contribution as well as today. It's really been helpful, and we really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on to Wazirin Gwandu. We'll be talking about the role of traditional institutions in the fight against gender-based violence with Wazirin Gwandu.
Hello?
Hello,
Are you
sir.
with me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you now, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, we can.
And I welcome everybody on this platform.
All right.
I really am very happy to be invited to speak on both gender violence and child rights acts and the role of traditional institution. And I think there's no better time than now to really discuss, especially about the Child Rights Act, better than now, especially in Kebbi, when we have just discovered a child that has been locked by his parents for over 2 years. And our people and the people in the community who has given us children and he has told us to take care of them from the time they are young until the time they mature. And taking care means that looking after them, taking them to school, ensuring they are well behaved and all that, and of course giving them food and manners and all that. So it behoves on us as parents to do that. And also as traditional institution, we encourage our people, sit with them and discuss with them and encourage them to bring their children close to them. And as for the gender violence, it's an issue that is very topical these days because of the frequency of gender violence in various homes. Along that line also, it's still also depends on advocacy and sensation and bringing people to realize God-given order, religion, resource man, their manners. It shows that God has created them to come together and cooperate with one another and make a family. And these different families make communities and societies and all that. So it really is very saddening that this kind of cooperation and coming together sometimes ends up in violence. It could be against the man or against the woman. In whatever form it comes, gender violence is negative and is wrong and must be fought against. And also this time around, traditional institution also brings in people and they discuss with them and encourage them and they tell them what should be done. It is very important that whoever is going to deliberate on this discusses about the strata of the traditional institution. We have got at least 4 or 5 levels of strata, from the Mayangua to the village head to the district head to the emir, and this thing goes down. If we give instruction from the emir to the district head, he passes on to the village head. The village head passes on to the ward head or the Mayangua. Is that Mayangua that we should all dwell upon, because he's the man who is, dealing directly with people. So the Mayangua must appreciate the importance of this problem of gender violence and disseminate that to the people and encourage them and sensitize them and really get people to get that, to internalize the dangers of gender violence. You may come out with legislation, which may be a deterrent. But first and foremost, you have to encourage people and sensitize them, and through a lot of advocacy, show them, the negative aspect of gender violence and molesting children and all that. So I think it's by that the traditional institution comes into play, because they are the ones who are directly dealing with the people, and this is people-based issues. These are people-based issues, and you have to hammer them into their hand and their minds until they accept and appreciate, their roles as human beings, and their roles they should come together as human beings, a man and a wife, and with their children. So essentially, the role of the education institution is that of advocacy, transition, and getting to realize the importance of living together in peace and harmony.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to add one more question. Now, there are some speculations that some traditions believe that it's a right for a man to lay his hands on his wife. What do you think concerning this issue? Can we count that, because in the general sense, we can count this as gender-based violence. What do you think about this particular speculation?
Well, I think societies and communities are dependent on religious injunctions and the likes, and the community mannerisms. And I don't think any community, any religion can instruct a man to beat his wife to the extent of harming her or creating a scenario of violence against that woman. There are some people who even say that the religion of Islam, allows man to beat his wife. Yes, it may, but then you have to look at the circumstance and what kind of beating. The religion of Islam does not allow a man to beat his wife on the face, or beat her in such a way that she will leave a mark on him. The important thing you have to like is that the man is the leader of the family, and he has to this family by discipline. We beat our children. Unfortunately, some of us beat our children to the extent of even harming them such a way they lose their limbs or their eyes or fractures and all that. That is taking it to the highest limit. In the same manner, even if you are disciplining your wife, you may expect her to harm her or to bodily harm or something. I mean, a part is enough for her to realize what has done wrong. Not necessarily taking a cane or stick her mercilessly is the way that will violence. So certainly, no sensible community will accept a man to beat his wife. No sensible individual will accept where a man will beat his wife mercilessly, create a scenario of violence. Like I've told you, all religions institution of marriage that you create a family, and any religion will tell you that peace and what religious and rules and laws are all about. Any religion, any reasonable community, reasonable society will come back in and a man mercilessly beat his wife, or the other way around. So that is misconception. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Continue, sir. Hello, sir.
Are you with me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So what the last point did you hear me say? I don't know why you stopped hearing me.
We stopped at the part where you mentioned that Islam permits certain point of discipline.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm to tell you that people might accept that, might take that to mean that they can beat their wives mercilessly, which is wrong. Because even in Islam does not allow you to beat your wife on the face or to leave a mark on her. But if you want to discipline your wife because the man is the leader of the family, like we beat our children when they go wrong. But people sometimes take it to the highest level and they beat them as if they are beating, an animal or something like that. That is wrong. Discipline is all right because the man is the leader of the family, but does not mean that you will beat your wife or your child or anybody for that matter to the extent of creating a scenario of violence. Like I've said also, any religion, all societies, all religions accept marriage as an institution. And the marriage is the coming together of a man and a woman. And by the operation between a man and a wife. And this operation is symbiotic, it's a synergy. Each one of each of the party will now cooperate with the other to create harmony and understanding. How can any religion, any society, any community now institute violence against these two human beings? It's through marriage that you get a family, and a family is the nucleus of. So whatever you do in the family, that's what translates in the wider society. And certainly, violence in the family, translates into violence into the community. So right now, at the point of the family level is where you must instill discipline and ensure that you live together in harmony and understanding between the man and the wife and their children as they grow. So certainly it's against, it's the community will now means of instituting discipline.
Okay.
Hello?
Thank you so much, sir.
Good.
Thank you for your contributions. We'll get a few contributions from Malam Nasir Idris, the state coordinator, rapper, team leader, Kebbi State Coalition of CSOs. Malam Nasir.
Yeah, Your Highness, we are very happy with what you express about this very contribution the traditional sector is doing toward reducing the prevalence of the gender-based violence. And also, I just want to express my happiness actually toward what I witnessed at a place called Amiru Zoramawa place. We witnessed resolution and reconciliation of so many issues that concerning gender-based violence at the Amiru Zoramawa place. And actually, it was impressed because at Amiru Zoramawa place, I see problems were solved amicably. So problems, family issues are solved in a manner without long process of court processes. Actually, we are very pleased with that, and we are soliciting the Amiru Zoramawa place maybe should be more support. We should be given more support, maybe by the government and also the emirate, so that to reduce the menace of the gender-based violence in Kebbi State. Because what what I witnessed happening in the place, actually, it has sent a signal to so many perpetrators that they should slow down. And if not, if they meet, they will happen to be there, actually, they are going to get the full weight of the law. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Sorry, I want to make a reaction on what he has just said.
Okay, go on, sir.
Yes, I'm very happy you have seen a traditional court in session. What you have seen in the Amiru Zoramawa place is just a micro of what happens in other traditional settings. In the America councillor in front of the emir, this will do such about similar things. And in fact, to the limit that whatever happens in Adrumi, Admin, Zormawa place, who is a village head, if he cannot have, he will pass it. The district will not really, he will pass it emir. And that's what about the structure of the street from Angua to the cricket emir. Whatever, what is happening in most of the other.
Okay, we lost the Wazir in Gwandu. Okay, let's move on to the representative of Christian Association of Nigeria, Mr. Samuel John. Mr. Samuel? Hello, Mr. Samuel. Can you hear us, Mr. Samuel? Okay, we welcome back, Waziri Gwandu.
Hi. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, what I want to emphasize that I'm very happy Malam Nasser has seen what is going on in Amirun Zoromo's place. He has been that's a micro thing of what happens in other places. In all the villages and and that's what happens in all where they sit and in council about issues of that the village and also morning thoughts among courts on differences. Often and the court
Okay. Thank you so much, Wazirin Gwandu. I guess you're having network issues. Let's move on to Mr. Samuel John. Mr. Samuel John, can you hear me? Mr. Samuel, please unmute your mic so we can hear you. Hello, Mr. Samuel.
Hello.
Okay. Welcome once again, Mr. Samuel. Hello. Mr. Samuel, please, can you get to a location with a better network coverage? We can barely hear you. Okay, we also have with us Ambassador Nafisa Abubakar Zaki. Good afternoon, Ambassador.
Yes, good afternoon.
Once again, it's great having you on this discussion.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
Okay, let's talk about the inappropriate ways the society has been handling gender-based violence. Now, I would like you to specifically talk about how the society treats gender-based violence victims.
Okay.
That you think are not appropriately done.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and assalamu alaikum. I wish to appreciate those that spoke earlier. It's a really interesting day and very informative too. And yes, there are many ways that GBV is being mishandled in the society and also the victims. For instance, before we even go to rape cases, we have physical violence where in a family, especially husband and wife setting, where in her matrimonial home, the wife will be beaten, even if not regularly, once in a while. And sometimes she will even sustain some injuries, or she will not be given her own rights. Now her rights becomes privileges, maybe sexual rights, economic rights, and others. And then she will continue to be asked to just calm down or have patience every day. Oh, goodness. So it's not interesting at all. And it also encourages the violence to continue on daily basis. New problems will arise because the more she try to contain it and keep quiet, the more it will happen. And then secondly, her morale will be low. The moment you have somebody's morale being low, that means the self-esteem of that person is being affected. The performance of that person is being affected. The image of that person is being affected. In fact, that person will not be as productive as he or she is supposed to be. And then let's not forget that gender-based violence doesn't just affect women, it also affects a few men, but more on children. And then there are certain issues or situations where in houses, especially here in northern Nigeria, because of polygamy, there are certain children with their own mother that are more preferred or given preference and given more attention than the other ones. It's a violence itself on their own rights. That is also being shown by our generally, but then in our communities, we keep saying, "Yahankuri, yahankuri, yahakuri." Yahakuri means have more patience. Yes, it's good to have patience, but then why can't we address things the way they are supposed to be done? And there are certain family settings where if the husband happens to be from a well-to-do family or well-recognized family, either from the political cycle or from the royal family. In fact, it's even better in the royal cycle because they don't accept such nonsense. But there are still a very few that are doing that, and it's been kept quiet upon. But then because the husband has one or two cars, because the husband has some money in his pocket, he can do whatever he wants. And the society keeps quiet, keeps saying that, what can we do? It's the only source, it's kaza kaza. It's not good at all. It's really bringing back all the good things that we are trying to do in the community. These are things that are affecting it. And then let's go to the issue of sexual violence. This culture of silence that is affecting each and every type of violence is worse on rape. Because the culture of silence in rape cases It's not good at all. 100% it condemns the victim. It gives it a different face. Because we keep saying, try and speak out, do this, do that. But then, this is a culture that has been in them for many years, hundreds of years. They keep thinking of shame, that the family will be put to shame, that the girl will not have a husband, that the girl will not have this, that the family will do that, or they will bribe the family just to keep quiet. It doesn't work that way. The more it is done, the more it will be done again tomorrow. Because the more we keep quiet, the more the victims keep quiet, the more the perpetrators will do what they want tomorrow. But then, what of the other issues? What of her own morale? Just as I mentioned earlier in the violence cycle, in the physical violence cycle, the same thing happened and even worse. Because that is why we are having now more suicide cases. There are a lot of things that are happening that we tend to turn our face the other side. But let's face reality. There are many deaths today that are suicide cases, but they are just taken to be natural death, or because she had one or two sicknesses, or he had one or two sicknesses, when in reality it is suicide and the people around them knew and they keep quiet. These are such issues that can give rise to that. But then, how can we address this? We have a lot of things that can be done. We have issues like encouraging people to talk, like even listening to them. Because it's not just about us advocating for it. It's not just us sensitizing people. It is us being friends with the people. It is us being available for them to listen to them. Because listening to someone can give you an insight of his or her own deep memories or deep secrets. And it is not just us. If I said we, I don't mean myself or you or the CSOs that are here. We cannot do it alone. I mean the community members themselves. His Royal Highness, the Wazir Ngondo, spoke about Jibril, the boy that was maltreated in his family home, and he was tied like an animal. Do you think the neighbors have not seen it? They have seen that. They saw it. Many people saw that. In fact, there is another child that is also sick in the family. But then what happened? And how many children? He has about 18 children, the same man. And who saw that first? Nobody says anything. And they keep saying he is mentally retarded, he is this, he is that. And he's not the only person. I wouldn't want to say I'm 100% sure, but I have a feeling that if we can have this case, then we might have others in other places. Just look at Kano. In 1 week, 2 cases were discovered. One, about 13 years, one, 15 years. It's not encouraging at all. Why are we keeping quiet? Why are we keeping quiet? That bond that was there before, that protection, that love, that sincerity, that cooperation, that friendliness between neighbors is no more there. Even in our families now, we are broken. We have broken homes while we are still looking intact. There is no more that. We need to address that also. We keep thinking because a husband and a wife are still married that they don't have a broken home. No, many families are broken, but they are still married. Many neighbors are also broken. They don't have a bond. They don't share anything. We don't care. My son is my son. Your son is your son. Before, it is not like that. I can call your son and deal with him or her or your child, your daughter, if they are doing something contrary to the good things or values of our society. But nowadays, try it. They will even take you to court or they will stone you to death. It's just bad. It's really hurting. It's not interesting. So the way our society is handling GBV cases is not encouraging us at all. In fact, even we, the CSO members that are being seen as the elites, outspoken, we are the voice of the voiceless, we keep saying it. But then one issue will expose our weakness and we will be quiet. Some of us will hide. Some of us will not say anything again, so that this person or that person will not see us and then identify us, and then the government can do something. Or then we have collected certain money from someone, so we wouldn't want to be exposed, or we wouldn't want to be taken to court. We don't want to do this. We have to be sincere. Even we ourselves, we have our own lapses. Thank you.
This is this is really wonderful, getting to hear more in depth on this particular issue. I wish we had more time so we could talk about these issues one after the other. But let's quickly take the challenges faced by CSOs, especially in the fight against gender-based violence.
Okay. With regards to the challenges faced by CSO,
Yes.
we have issue. Some of us lack capacity. Some don't have enough information or knowledge on gender-based violence itself, on the strategies, on how to implement activities, what to even do, how to approach the communities, how to approach stakeholders, how to have a buy-in for them to, how to bring on board implementing partners to take part of it, how to make good, how to create good rapport with existing structures or leverage on what we have already. All these things, we are lacking them. And then there is a lack of funding, yes, because we need transportation, we need to do sensitization and other things. And then probably there might be some funds somewhere lying down, but we are not aware of them. And then the government also need to create a budget line for this. Gender-based violence is not something that you can just push down under Ministry of Women Affairs or Ministry of Health and then think it will be covered. No, they need their own budget line for their own activities in relation to gender-based violence. And then the CSOs also need their own budget line. I don't know what is existing presently, but we need more to be done on this. And then CSOs also lack cooperation among themselves. In Kebbi State, I can give you an example. The present lead that we have here that is with us presently in this session, Nasir Idris, is trying his best. He is the CSO chairman on Domestication of Child Rights Act, coalition chairman. And that is all. After this, when it's done and the implementation is good, yes, we can continue do everything we want. But the main coalition itself has two chairmen, one for CSOs, one for NGOs. Tell me the difference. And we are looking at this like it's nothing is happening. A lot is happening. And that is why we cannot have what we want, because we have different structures and different parties. And then we also, we lack the background. This is not just about education now or information, but we also need this to have a synergy among us. There must be a very, very good and clean rapport between us for us to call ourselves a unified structure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Nafisa Abubakar Zaki.
Thank you.
We have Yakubu Muhammad. Can you hear us?
Yeah, ma, I can hear you.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah,
yes, we can hear you too.
Okay, ma.
Let's get on the discussion with Yakubu Muhammad. How can CSOs partners with existing structures and platforms to increase efficiency of the CSOs and NGOs? Now, by that, I mean with relation to gender-based violence. Now, earlier, the program director had talked about partnering with some bodies to concerning the fight against gender-based violence. So can you suggest to us possible ways which CSOs and NGOs can partner together to help fight gender-based violence?
Actually, it's a good one. I am by name Yakub Mohammed Yawood, as you said, the Executive Director of Gender Equity Promotion Initiative, an NGO that is based in Kebbi as well as has a branch in Yawood. Your question is a good one. Actually, the CSO NGO need to partner with other organizations for them to work on fight against this gender-based violence. In fighting gender-based violence, you need to know that when we say gender, it's just beyond just saying women to be specific, that were being deprived from their rights, inflicting pain, rape cases, and what have you. As other colleagues has mentioned also, that also men experience such gender-based violence. You see, there's a lot of things that happen at home. Men are also being deprived some of their rights by their wives, but they usually maintain silence because they don't want to expose, they don't want to say it out for the society to see as if they are not men enough. This actually psychologically is preventing them, it's not helping their situation to accept because of that psychological trauma. I will come to exactly your question, and I just want to make a preamble for you, for other colleagues also to be at the same page. Now, there was a time when I had an issue that the punishment of rapists to be castration. I'm not deviating from the question, I'm coming directly. I just want to say why I just answer directly. Actually, people are saying the punishment of rapists should be castration, actually. It's a good one. And some of are saying life sentence, death sentence, and lot more. But we are not considering that women who are actually perpetrating and inflicting this pain to also boys, that is male child. You know, there's women also who are also abusing these our young ones, and is it because of there is no penetration to indicate that they sustained injury? That is why they are just scaling free. That also has to be considered. If men will penetrate at least to cause an injury or a trauma or whatever we may call it, that should be a sentence date, they should be castrated. And what are the possible punishments suggested to women who also are causing this psychological trauma, our young ones who are having, who are engaging them in sexual activities, and because of men doesn't sustain injury in penetration? I don't know what are the possible things that actually we can talk about that. There's a lot of things that actually we need to consider and look into it. We shouldn't be talking to only one side. That always, when we say gender, gender is of both sex, male and female. We shouldn't be talking just to one side. And for also are being affected, and also they need to be carried along and considered. Good. And coming to the question you asked, the non-governmental organization and the CSO as well are actually complementing the effort of government. So that is why it is very good at least to partner with government and any relevant organization, that is the traditional institution, the religion institution, at least to succeed in gender-based violence. Because our culture fell the gender rules. The religion also fell all the roles of the men, the women, children, and what have you. And it is responsibility of the community themselves at least to understand what the gender roles are all about and how is it going to be fought in the society. So having all this in place will enable at least the civil society organization to have a good partnership and work exactly what they are fighting on this gender-based violence. The community need to understand the ethic, the culture, the religion perspective as well as the traditional perspective of gender-based violence. When we are all carried along and have a good understanding of all these institutions, and I believe the fight against gender-based violence will be very minimal. Now, for example.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay,
Let's get on with the representative for Christian Association of Nigeria, Mr. Samuel John. Mr. Samuel? Mr. Samuel, can you hear me? Microphone, Mr. Samuel, so we can hear you from here. Welcome once again, Mr. Samuel John. Hello, Mr. Samuel. Okay, I think he's still having network issues. Mr. Samuel, please, if you can hear me, just indicate. Okay. Okay, we'll have a presentation from the state coordinator, Rapper. He's also team leader, Kebbi State Coalition of CSOs. And by that, I'm talking about Malam Nasir Idris.
I thank you very much for all your contributions. Actually, it has been a very, very wonderful day. We're very happy with all the contribution made in this very platform. I just want to go briefly about the research and recommendation made by Rapper Kebbi State. And I think actually the recommendation and the research correlate with all the civil society organization playing part in reducing the prevalence of the gender-based violence in Kebbi State. Let me quickly go around and read the research and the recommendation made. The gender-based violence in all its forms and contexts should be seen and treated as criminal and not private issue by all, especially the institution of the first reference, the police and the hospital. Government executives should express higher political will by supporting the immediate passage of the Violence Against Person Prohibition Law, VAP bill, by the State Assembly. Federal and the state government should consider it priority to support the demand for legal framework seeking to address discrimination and violence against persons to ensure peace and security for the weak and vulnerable citizens. This law aims to address new and emerging forms of violence not covered by existing laws and legal framework that reduce the risk of survival, re-victimization, and reoccurrence of the violence. Law enforcement agencies should be oriented and trained on best practices for responding to gender-based violence, especially in investigation, documentation, management, and prosecution. The judiciary, through the State Judiciary Institute, should organize training to enhance the capacity of judicial officers to respond to gender-based violence, especially within the context of court proceedings. Government, through the State Ministry of Women Affairs, should either establish or facilitate civil society groups to establish structures, such other support mechanism for victims and survivors of gender-based violence. The response to gender-based violence should be accepted as a social responsibility for all communities. Communities must mobilize and work together to rid their environment of the menace and offer support to victims, thereby ending the culture of silence and stigmatization for speaking up. Communities with support from the relevant government agencies should involve men and boys in initiatives to reduce the rate of gender-based violence occurrence, with religion, traditional, and community leaders taking the lead. Government should encourage ministries, departments, and agencies to develop code of conduct against sexual abuse and exploitation, and mainstreaming its principles in the civil service regulations. Civil society should sustain its engagement and momentum around the enactment and implementation of legal framework and mechanism that prohibit award redress to victims of violence in all circumstances. Sustained research and documentation that monitor and present periodic situation report, share successful approach, and support advocacy for review and improvement in responding to gender-based violence. This is our recommendation, and this is our research, and we are going to forward this to the appropriate authority to look into it. And this is one of the way forward in reducing the prevalence of gender-based violence in Kebbi State. Thank you very much. Your time.
Thank you so much, Malam Nasir Idris, for that wonderful remarks. I would at this point open the floor for any participant who has any contribution to share with us. If you have any, do indicate so your mic can be unmuted. Okay, Malam Abdul.
Okay, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Good. Though we've been having network issues, so very poor network, and the audio was not too good. That shows our level of development and probably a violence from maybe MTN or Airtel. But that aside, I think we have issues, and to actually quench or reduce gender-based violence, there are issues that are actually involved. We need to look at some of the causes. We need to look at the policies we are making. We need to look at the prosecution. And also, we need to actually engage in researches, just as Mala Nasru suggested. Economy, you see, determines almost everything in our life. Most people who perpetrate gender-based violence do it based on their economic power. And we can't shy away from the bold evidences that women and girls are always at the receiving end. Why is it like that? It's because the economy is in the hand of men. So some women and girls are actually slaves in their homes. Then when you come to issue of prosecution, there is something we need to understand. Data is very important in prosecution. And most developed countries have moved towards that. Most of the cases being prosecuted, some of these perpetrators, even if they're in prison now, most of them have refused to agree that they actually committed violence like rape because there's no bold scientific evidence to prove them, to prosecute them. Most of these people keep on appealing upon appealing that they didn't commit this rape. What if we have some data? What if at the age of 10, boys and girls should be subjected to actually provide fingerprints, their fingerprint being taken and put in a computer, their oxyribonucleic acid being put into computer, then you have data that when a rape is committed, you can actually pick a girl, or when violence is committed and somebody is denying it, you can pick that person, pick the fingerprint on the victim, on the purported victim, just subject it to a computer. The picture of the perpetrator will come out and he can't deny it. Then another issue raised by Madam Nasser is very important: research. Research is very important. Most countries develop and have reached where they can be in terms of health, be in terms of environmental or whatever. Government need to actually, and other bodies that sink money into researches on gender-based violence. You have to do research because this is a social problem. And when these things
Oh,
continue,
I guess we've lost connection with Malam Abdul
yes,
Mumin.
it's always detrimental where you can get facts. You can mine out facts. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you now.
Okay. So a sizable amount of money need to be sink into researches on gender-based violence. There are professionals who are ready to get grants to actually engage in research because you can't. There's, I think in the 21st century, you can't do anything without doing a research. That is where you get fact, and the whole thing centers around research. You understand? So government need to actually come in, do researches, encourage researches through financial contributions, so that facts can be gotten concerning gender-based violence. So I think that's my little contribution, but I would have contributed more but the network was so bad, the audio was so bad, I was not concentrating. So thank you very much for.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I would also like to welcome Malam Ibrahim Ngaski, who just joined us. And thank you so much, Malam Nasir Idris, for your contributions. Thank you also, Malam Abdul Mumin, for your contribution. Thank you to every organization which we have had this discussion with: Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. Thank you to NGOs and CSOs that were part of this discussion. We'll be taking the closing remarks from Hassana Ibrahim.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hassana Ibrahim. I would like to draw our attention on something before we close up. We all know that the Child Rights Act bill is at the State House of Assembly, and we are waiting for the public hearing of this Child Rights Act that was submitted from the state government. So we need to take place, because as we can see, we assumed that the public hearing will be 2 weeks or 1 month back, when we heard that they submitted that bill to the State House of Assembly. But up to now, we didn't hear anything about, or to pay an advocacy visit again to the State House of Assembly. What is keeping the public hearing? Because without this law, things that are happening about this gender-based violence, there's no any law that can back it and punish those people that are doing the violence. So we need to work on that. In this section, I would like to thank everybody, more especially all the facilitators that participate from day 1 to day 2 of this meeting. That is, I will start with Youth of Africa. Youth of Africa, we really appreciate them, because without Youth of Africa, I don't think this Child Rights Act will be in Kebbi. Though without them, maybe God will bring other people to come and bring this Child Rights Act in Kebbi. But in fact, we really appreciate Youth of Africa, because they are the one that brought this thing to us today, and they are the one that organized the coalition that will come together as coalition of CSO in this Kebbi State. We really appreciate them. They are the one that partnering with rapper. Then we work together with them since 2016 up to date. We are still working with them. We thank you, Youth of Africa, on that. I would like to thank Waziri Ngwendu too, Malang Alhaji Abdullahi Umar Waziri, who attended this meeting today and give us a very good, wonderful goodwill on this gender-based violence. Thank you, sir. Ministry of Information and Culture too. I would like to thank Alhaji Garba Hamisu, who is here today with us and give us his own goodwill on this gender-based violence. Likewise, I would like to thank Khan, they are here, but unfortunately, I think they have issue with their audios, because I can see them on the system.
Hello, ma. Hello, ma, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, I think she's equally having network issues. This is, we would like to thank each and every participant on this virtual discussion. And so far we have talked about the roles of various bodies, various organizations, NGOs, CSOs, government organizations concerning the fight against gender-based violence. We've had discussions with Youth Hub Africa, had discussions with various NGOs and CSOs concerning this topic. And it's really been revealing. It's also been a wonderful discussion on the role of government, NGOs, CSOs in the fight against gender-based violence.
Okay, I would just like to wrap up that we'll be sharing feedback forms through your email addresses you register for this webinar. We'll be also sending the recordings of this meeting to you, as well as any document that was read through your various email addresses. Meanwhile, stay blessed, and we hope to have this kind of session to engage more stakeholders and come up with more resolve regarding the gender-based violence, especially as it relates to Kebbi State. Thank you very much for your time. Do have a wonderful day.